Happy Friday, and thanks for tuning into RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm, and I'm thrilled to be here today. Really thrilled to be here with John Rossi. Hey, John, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
Norm, thank you for inviting me. I was so delighted to receive your text, and really a pleasure. Thank you.
I'm so happy you could be here.
Oh, absolutely.
24% of the people I asked said they couldn't come. 76% said yes. So, which is a reference to this last election. It was a big and unpleasant at times, contentious election here in Rhinebeck for town supervisor. And
I haven't seen anything like that. You're right.
Yeah, and in what ways have you not seen anything like that?
Most of the camp. Well, first of all, on the town side, we rarely have competitive races. And I don't think that we've had a primary on the town ever. In the village, we've had at least 3 or 4 primaries now. And they're competitive, they're sharp elbow, but this one went in a very darker direction.
And how so? What were some of the specifics that you think of?
The doxing that took place was really surprising to me. That an opponent would surface material that's very personal, very private. Not illegal.
And just for kicks, let me play devil's advocate. The opponent didn't really do that, but somebody sort of in their camp, maybe connected, maybe directed, but you don't know.
You're right.
Yeah.
I don't think it was ever condoned.
I don't think the candidate ever commented on it.
The Debbie's opponent did not, as far as I know.
Yeah,
didn't say, hey, this is wrong. Take this down. This is deplorable. So we didn't hear that, but you're right.
Yeah, and what other things? I mean, I know people changed parties to vote in this primary.
Yeah. That was very surprising, and we were, I guess, first alerted to that by seeing known Republicans in the village, in the town, with Deb's opponent's signage, and that kind of made our antenna go up. And it wasn't difficult to check voter rolls. I mean, there's public domain information. You just have to reach out to the Board of Elections, and sure enough, there were folks that absolutely longstanding Republicans had changed their party. And I was glad that the Daily Catch, exposed that.
Yeah.
But Norm, I don't recall anyone ever looking from the other party, the Republicans, looking to influence a Democratic primary.
Right.
So we shared that on a lot of the doorsteps that we went to.
Sorry, go on.
We just told folks that we want you to know that there are Republicans that have changed their party with a purposeful intent to have an influence on our party's primary.
Right. And what do you think about that? Like, just from a numbers standpoint, I'm like, great, that makes sense. If I'm more on the other side,
yes, yeah.
So let's get them all to change and vote for us because we want similar things, even if ideologically separate. So what? When I heard that, I was like, oh, that's dirty dealing. That's not good. But it makes sense.
Yeah, everything is fair. Most everything is fair.
Yeah.
But then it's fair that we can share this information with our fellow Democrats.
Absolutely.
We focus largely, the campaign, both candidates focus largely on the issues, on policy differences, but I often was nudging Debbie to remind folks that this is a Democratic primary. So Democratic values should be part of, I think, the equation that goes through each voter's mind on who they're going to cast their ballot for.
Yeah, that should sort of be a given.
Yeah. So I at times Deb did raise, or I raised on the doorstep with her. There isn't just a difference of policy, which is to be expected, but there is an embrace of democratic values that I think is very much tilted in Deb's direction.
Yeah.
She's not. If she had people that changed, and by the way, people who changed their party alliance didn't do it because they want to be Democrats. And we know that because one was quoted in the Daily Catch that, yeah, I'm going to change back as soon as the election is over.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I'm probably digressing too much into that.
No,
but,
not at all. It's all
yes,
very interesting.
Yeah, it was. It was bothersome to say the least.
Bothersome. Yeah, it seemed like, okay, it's legal, so it's fair,
Now,
but it's
you
just
never
gross.
predict, how is the election going to fall out. We felt that Debbie. I always felt that Debbie was going to win. I did not think she was going to win by that significant a margin, which is really unprecedented.
Right.
But you play it, the campaign, like it's going to be close, and you actually want to play it as if you're the underdog, and we did. And Debbie embraced that. So if you kind of believe that, and you don't ever really know, well, we had a Democratic race just recently overturned by one vote in the city of Newburgh, the town of Newburgh, from the general election in 2025. The Democrat had prevailed the night the votes were counted by 2, and the Republicans did what we would do as Democrats. Well, we challenged it in court, and when all was said and done and recounted, the Democrat was overturned, lost by 1 vote. So, with that in mind, you got 20, 25 people that are changing their party alliance. Only takes a few votes to sometimes separate, the winner from the loser.
Yeah.
So,
and for those who changed their lines, what do you think their main motivation was?
I think it was to support Deb's opponent. I don't think it was anything other than,
Right.
this is the person that we want to see in office.
So it wasn't a particular issue. It's just like, we want to support her.
Right.
Right. Huh. It's I found that, like I say, super interesting, a little bit distasteful, but also I'm like, it's a numbers game, and they're like playing the numbers.
Yeah. It is a numbers game, and that's why we kept putting Debbie Hecht on the doorstep, and she was a candidate that I wasn't sure about in the beginning because we've never done this type of really, I'll use the word aggressive canvassing. We are out. First of all, we were collecting the signatures. The petitioning process begins in March.
Right.
So we've got that picture of Debbie on her palm card, literally out in the winter.
Yeah.
And now it's, it was 95 degrees and we're walking through the woods or Village Green or Wells Manor, canvassing. So we were at this for a long time, a lot of doors. Debbie had terrific endurance, much better than I anticipated. So she was up for the physical and at times very taxing experience of canvassing door to door, and most of all, she was up for the conversations. Her messaging was clear. It was very concise, which I was really pleased with.
Right.
With Debbie, she needed very little coaching from me, and early on I said, you don't need me to be knocking on doors with you.
And what do you think was the crux of her messaging? What was the message that resonated?
Debbie's messaging's opened with a Debbie hello. Hi, I'm Debbie, and I was wondering if I could leave this palm card with you. I'm running for town supervisor, and people really, were engaged really quickly, and then she said, if you have any questions, Norm, I'm happy to answer them, or I can share maybe some of the distinctions between me and my opponent, and that always worked. Like sometimes people did have questions, but most often people said, "Oh yeah, that's okay, great. Tell me some of the differences." And Debbie would always start with saying, "I am not against development. The type of development I want to see is for housing, work class housing, workforce housing, however we want to characterize it. But I'm not for more tourism, more hospitality, more commercial industries. I think that we have enough already. And I'm a conservationist. I'm a preservationist. I believe in maintaining the historical culture, the green space that makes this place so unique. and my opponent would have a different opinion about that. And that, that discussion about clean air, clean water, the environment, Democrat values, that really did resonate.
Yeah.
And also, Debbie is, she's a woman of a really great intellect. I mean, she's really smart. I mean,
Yeah.
she has a doctorate. Sometimes I would say, oh, by the way, Debbie, she's got a PhD from Columbia. And she's like, oh, I said, she doesn't like to talk about it. But, at times, I would raise that. And by the way, another good thing about Debbie, and I say this about a lot of the candidates I found to work with, Kara Gary, the ability to adapt yourself at the door, because every conversation is different.
Right.
And the really good candidates, and I've worked with, Eleanor and Jennifer and Gabby Masigliano. I mean, these are just, these are great candidates, all these women, and Lisa Call. They have that ability to, read the person quickly, message quickly. And Debbie's able to do that. She's got the intellect, but Debbie also has what my daughter Bridget says is unabated exuberance.
Right.
Particularly if the person has a dog.
Oh, right.
She'll be all over the pet, but so she combined real intellect and exuberance, and I don't know how else to characterize it. A charm that I haven't seen before. That was very endearing to people.
Super likable.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, likability.
Yeah, and charisma. Do you think it's easier for a woman to canvass door to door than a man?
Well, I don't think it's easy for anyone, really.
Right.
But I think it is more challenging for a woman. Listen,
You think it's more challenging for a woman going door to door?
Yeah, I do. And I think part of it is just, as a male candidate, I think you can feel more freedom to go out. I've canvassed all through Dutchess County, and there are places that I wouldn't be comfortable letting Debbie or I'm sorry, I'm not trying to sound misogynistic, but it just may not be safe.
Right.
So I think for that reason, it's there's you're walking up to someone's doorstep, or sometimes you're going into an apartment building. Sometimes you're going around the back of a house. So there's just I think an awareness that you got to always have your antenna up, or just be as if you're taking the subway in New York City. Just always be alert.
Right.
So there is an element of that.
Yeah. The reason I asked the question that way is because if we did a little bit of canvassing.
Yes.
In the gardens, I think it was called, and we saw a lot of older people, and most of them were women. And it was me and Gina, who's a woman my age. And I kept thinking, if it were just me, these people wouldn't open the door. They wouldn't answer the door. They'd peek out the curtains and say, "See you later." And that's why I wondered if it was easier for a woman in some ways to do that.
That people would be more accessible.
Wary, yeah.
So it really depends.
Also, I'm sorry about this fly that's buzzing around you.
Canvassing in Rhinebeck is delightful because we're so much of it is walkable, and of course, many of us know each other, and you'll get about 30. A good day is if you get about 30% of the people home. I've been, all throughout different parts, Wappingers and Poughkeepsie and Beacon and LaGrange. I could, and it's rare that I get 30%. And the biggest obstacle are the camera bells, the ring bells. The door.
Oh, right. Because they're seeing you on their camera.
I'll be on. I did a lot of signature, for Debbie, but I also got a lot of signatures for Lisa Call when we're doing through the petitioning. I know that they're home, right? I can hear voices. I can hear someone lowering the TV. But there's the ring camera, and there I am, some guy with a clipboard,
yeah,
and a button, and I'm just. And of course, you're getting signatures only from Democrats, right? So
Yeah.
it's my fellow Democrats, but they're not answering the door. I don't know if the dynamic would shift because it was a woman instead of a man, Norm. I don't know.
Right. And do you think that the canvassing, the door-to-door stuff, was really the biggest factor in the way that this race split from, I mean, everybody went in it thinking it was going to be close, 50-50.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think that the canvassing was the reason it went that as far that way as it did?
I think that was a winning campaign, a losing campaign. Obviously, one's going to be a winner, one's going to be a loser. It comes down to a couple different factors. The single biggest factor, in my opinion, is door knocking. So when Congressman Ryan ran against Marcus Molinaro in 2022, that special election, Ryan's campaign started in June, ended like in the end of July, whenever that special election took place. Ryan was on, and we were all really involved in Ryan's campaign. We did a lot of doors for Pat. And the next morning he was on Morning Joe. And Joe said, so, Congressman, congratulations. How did you do this? And I still remember Ryan's response. Boots on the ground, door knocking.
Yeah.
And every race that I've been in, including a school board race that I ran in a long time ago, it came down to door knocking. Yeah,
Right.
Norm, I just think it always does.
Right. Now, how many races have you been involved in? First, how many races of your own have you been involved in?
The first race I was involved in, Norm, was in 2004 for the school board. And
which school board?
Long Island. It was. I'm from Long Island, so I think you know.
Okay.
No, that's okay. I'll tell you the story really fast.
Yeah. And where in Long Island?
In the South Shore of Long Island in Nassau County, specifically in the town of Merrick.
Uh-huh.
So it's 2003, the summer of 2003, and the local high school always sends had a ritual of sending the football team to a football camp in Pennsylvania. And unbeknownst to anyone, there was a history of hazing. And that hazing escalated and escalated, and it now involved sodomizing.
Oh.
Players, the senior players, brutalizing the younger, freshmen. And this became a national story. And there was outrage, there was outrage by parents that this could happen to, in this case, boys.
Right.
And it was also outrage because one of the first things that the school board did was to cancel the football season. And so that angered lots, I dare say, more parents and individuals than the outrage of what had taken place. So that it really splintered the community.
Doesn't seem like a bad reaction. This shit was going on. You know what? We're just going to cancel the season.
Right.
Everybody was there. Nobody stopped it. Whatever. The culpabilities were far and wide.
Yeah, and it was a criminal investigation, and 3 of the boys, the students, the players, did have to be spend time in not a prison because they were all under the age of 18, but a facility in the state of Pennsylvania for a short period of time. So it was.
You guys.
But also, it was apparent that there was what I characterize as a circling of the wagons, and information didn't seem to be transparent or as flowing as the community sought. And there was a group of parents that organized themselves, characterized themselves as Parents for Change. May and I were among that group. And as a group, we said, maybe it's time that we start running some candidates for the school board.
Yeah.
And I ran. I was one of the 2 people that ran, and I did defeat, a long-standing incumbent. And then I served on the school board for 2 terms. Each term was 3 years, and that was really a good experience. You're being on the school board. As far as the what took place at the high school. we began to work with a local state senator, modifying some of the laws to include, there was a big argument, well, this didn't really happen on the school property. It happened, but so we did have some impact in changing legislation. I realized that government has two speeds. I learned slow and slower. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So to this day, if you Google my name, John Rossi, and football, New York Times, just put that in Google, there will be a story about me and one of the other candidates that were running.
Right.
So that was that is how I found myself into local politics.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was kind of a long story.
Oh, that's all right. And there in Merrick, was that where your kids graduated from high school?
Yeah. So at that time,
So your community.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. At that time, our oldest, who's now 40, and our middle one, who's now 37, they were. I think Matt was a senior, and Allie was like maybe a freshman, and Bridget was still in like second grade at the time, though. That's our youngest. So, but yes, all three of my children were attending that district.
Uh-huh.
Then I ran for county legislator a few years later against a longstanding Republican, and I was defeated, pretty squarely. Not 76-24, but I was defeated pretty squarely.
And why do you think that is? Looking back now, what tactical mistakes did you make? Or
well, the leadership of the county Dems at that time in Nassau County was Jay Jacobs, who is now the state leader of the Dems, and the county executive, and this was a longstanding Republican stronghold, Nassau County. But Tom Swazi, who's now Congressman Tom Swazi, broke through, and that was, his big moment was county executive in Dutchess County. That was the party leadership, Tom and Jay, and I think they would answer that question that Rossi just didn't raise enough money. That there was an expectation for me to raise about $75,000, and this is in 2007. I raised more money than anybody else had. It was just under $25,000, but it wasn't nearly enough. So, but also that was, there was no real blue wave, red wave. That was a different time already, 2007.
And what would that extra $50,000 have bought you in that campaign?
I'm not sure.
That might have made a difference.
We did a lot of door knocking that summer. I had a small team working with me. Obviously we had palm cards. We did some mailers. If I had secured that additional funding, I think I still would have lost. It just, she was a strong candidate. She was the incumbent. I think that had more to do with it than anything. I was a younger, fresher face, but that just wasn't enough.
Yeah. So you did that, and then eventually you left Long Island.
Yeah.
How many years after that did you head north?
After that race and after the school board, May and I owned a little condo on the South Shore of Long Island that we would rent out in a place called Lido Beach. And Hurricane Sandy came along in 2012, and it was another moment where you said, "Wait a minute, who's in charge here?"
Right.
And there was a board, and you realized that that leadership had to be changed out there. So that was it. That was my third election. And I was elected, and that's when I started to work really closely with state and federal levels on funding, and did secure a very significant grant to help reconstruct, because the building was really devastated. It was a 180-unit condominium literally on the beach in facing the Atlantic, and it was almost needed to be demolished. So now it's fast forward to 2016, and the Rossis decide that they're going to relocate to the Hudson Valley.
And why did you decide to leave there? And second
Long
question,
Island?
Yeah, second question, how did you choose here to come to?
Answer to the first question, traffic.
Ah.
And I'm really not kidding. People say, "Oh, I guess you moved because of taxes on Long Island." The school taxes, the school taxes, they are pretty punitive on Long Island. But the traffic is just unbearable. And May and I were at the time, we were in our mid-50s, and saying, are we going to just always be? we both were born on the island. We met on the island. We raised our kids on the island. We went to school there. I mean, like, there has to be something else. And our middle one, Allison, was attending school up in the Hudson Valley, and in Ulster County. And we started, drive up here. And May has a long childhood memories of places like Phoenicia. I'm like, wow, this is just beautiful. And we just started to poke around, and we looked at as far north as Hudson, as far south as Beacon, and we fell in love with Rhinebeck, as most people do.
And was it all on this side of the river?
No, we looked at Saugerties. We looked at Catskills. We loved Saugerties a lot. That's where May's sister ended up relocating to when we moved up here. So May said to me, now listen, no more politics, all right? No, please. And
did you sign something? Sign in blood? No more politics.
I did say I agree, no more. And then Hillary is defeated by President Trump, and we're devastated, like most people were,
right?
And at least most Democrats. And May said, she could tell us, we're all itching. What do we do? What do we do? And May said, there's a Democratic race that's taking place in the village, our new home. And I said, well, why would there be a race in a village in the wintertime? And she says, I don't know, but I just saw something online about it, and you should go and get involved. And I said, really? You're telling me to get involved? Yeah. You're good at door knocking and all that stuff. You should get involved. I said, well, where do I go? She says, it's at some guy's house. His name is Rick Lewitt. And the rest is history. Oh, and then I get to Rick Lewitt's house, and so there's there's an organizer from the Dem Party, a nice young man, and he said, oh, you're here to knock on doors? And I said, yeah, sure. And he said, have you done this before? I said, oh, yeah, I've done it before. And he said, okay, well, one of the candidates that we're supporting, there's three, and one of them is going to be here in a few minutes. You go with her. And I said, okay. And that was Gina Fox.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And Gina and I, I just followed her. Like, I carried let her do the door knocking. And about 15 minutes into this, Gina said, you really know what you're doing. And I said, you do too. And she lost by a few votes, but when the election took place. But that's how I got involved in local politics in Rhinebeck.
What? How did May decide that it was time that
because she was so angry with the election
Gotcha.
of Donald Trump in 2016.
Which was Deb's story too. When Trump got elected, she's like, I want to do something.
Yeah. And
what I can do is on the local level. And so here she is.
And then, we get to, so the village was successful, and there was now a Democratic majority in the village, I think, for the first time in 2017. The town had a Democratic majority. I also got a phone call out of the blue from Warren Temple Smith and Elizabeth Spinzier asking me if I would be interested in challenging Joel Tyner in a Dem primary for county legislator.
Wow.
And I said, I am interested, but I'd have to do fundraising. I don't know anybody here. I just got here, but thanks for thinking of me. And but anyway, that began the chain of events that continued. Get to 2018, and now there's a chance for us to really get involved and make a difference at the federal level. Can we flip the House? And there's a young guy named Antonio Delgado, who's going to be running, and his major challenge in that primary was another young guy named Pat Ryan. So David Weiner, I don't know if you know David. I was doing some cold calling. I forget where we were. For phone banking. Now Delgado won the primary, so now we're doing phone banking for Delgado. And there's one guy in the room who's really good, and it's David Weiner. And so I go over and I introduce myself. I said, yeah, you're really good at this. I said, I don't really like phone banking. He says, yeah. He says, how about we start knocking on doors? I said, well, it was like June, July. And I said, yeah, all right. So I knocked on doors all summer with David Weiner and all into the fall. And we're thrilled when Delgado and the Dems won the House in 2018. So I guess probably sorry that you asked me this question.
No,
We're
not
gonna need
at
a lot
all.
more than an hour.
Yeah.
So
Well, we'll just have to have you back.
So it has been this, this great, progression.
And coming to this new place, it sounds like you just sort of like slid right in. Was there, were things done very differently from your previous races? Was there much of a learning curve coming to a small town?
I would say no, Norm. You're right. The scale in North Merrick, there's Merrick and there's North Merrick, and we lived in North Merrick, which is about the same square footage as the village of Rhinebeck, which is to say about 2 square miles. But in North Merrick, there weren't 2,000 people or 2,500. It's over 12,000.
Wow.
So the scale was much larger, but the mechanics of the campaign were absolutely the same. Yeah, it's raise some money. Right? I mean, it always comes down to these 3 M's: money, got to raise money; messaging, you got to have a succinct message that hopefully resonates with people; and 3, mobilization. So you look at like a Debbie Hecht, she raised money, just and truly the right dollar amount. She said, "How much do you think we need?" I said, "I think 8,000 to 10,000 will do it." Got to probably do 1 mailing, and we did palm cards and the signs and some buttons. Postage was really expensive. We did postcards. So you got your money. The messaging, Debbie Hecht had down, nailed it. Just focusing on what people really do care about, them values. And when I say that, in this particular race, green versus tourism, that type of a contrast. So good messaging, and then mobilization. We had teams of people. When I say teams, Eleanor Pupko would go out, do some of the rural areas. You have to have drivers. When you get to the rural areas.
Right.
Debbie and I then focused on a lot of the more dense areas. If you add the gardens to the village population, to the village number of Dems, that's about 1,200 Democrats that you can get to. I shouldn't be giving all my secrets away. Pretty quickly and repeatedly.
Right.
So anyway, that it nothing. I don't think anything changes other than the scale of the race. I think it's always comes to those 3 M's.
Right. So you say giving your secrets away, but I mean, it's the 3 M's. People know these things. Is it the follow through? I mean, do people know these things and just not do them, not follow through, or? Because it's pretty basic, your 3 M's.
Yeah. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about opponents. I really don't. You're monitoring, you're tracking, what you have, what's available out there that might show up like in the daily catch or on social media. But largely, I just don't think about the opponent. I just think about my candidate and the discipline that we have to have, which is those 3 M's, but particularly mobilization. What does that mean? It means getting to doors. How many people can we get to get to doors? Let's make sure that what do they need? There's all those underlying details. So that you got your 3 M's, but each of them have a multitude of underlying details and factors that you have to get into consideration. We don't. This is, I guess, I'll share this. When does the early voting start? And most people say, well, in this particular race, early voting started on, June 13th, I think?
Thereabouts, yeah.
Early voting starts when those absentee ballots go out. There are people that are what's known as permanent absentee ballots. For some reason or another, Norm just said, I'm always out of the county. I might have a disability. So even in the town of Rhinebeck, and so the state requires ballots to go to individuals that have designated themselves within the parameters of Board of Election laws as permanent absentee.
Right.
The Board of Election has to get those ballots to the individuals 45 days before Election Day. So we knew that there were already people getting ballots, sometime in late May, early May. Some people were getting ballots, and so we, and you can find out who those are because they have a designation on the voter rolls.
Yeah.
So we made sure that every one of those people got a Debbie Hecht postcard with a Debbie Hecht picture, a Debbie Hecht handwritten message. And so we begin counting, get out the vote, counting the votes. You traditionally think of that as that 96 hours up to election day. Well, now we have early voting. So which 96 hours is it? But I think that a big part of what you need to be doing is always be thinking about counting votes. So, again, I'm giving you these long answers, Norm. I'm sorry.
No, they're great. It's super interesting. So let me ask you: you had this win. It was a big margin.
Yes.
Let's call it a high-profile election. Making a high-profile win. Is the phone ringing off the hook?
Well, I have. I'm going to continue to work with Debbie.
Because that was just the primary.
Yeah.
Even though it felt
So
like the election all elections.
Right. We don't. Right. We still have a general election, and I'm committed to Debbie through the general election, November 4th. We don't know whether the other side will have a candidate or not, but we're playing it like that, like they do. In addition, I'm going to be out there knocking on doors for Pat Ryan. And Michelle Hinchy and Sarah Hanna. I'm less involved in Lisa Call's general election. In some ways, I think her primary was maybe more challenging than the general election will be. But Lisa is in a good place. She's got a cadre of people around her, so I can step away and devote time elsewhere. And some of the people that are supporting Lisa Call were people that I had working with Lisa with Kara Gary. So when I first joined Lisa Call's campaign, and the audience doesn't know, Lisa's a terrific candidate. She's a county legislator, and she is the party's now, because she won her primary, candidate against Rob Rollison in the 39th district for the state senate. So that's a seat that we would love to flip, and I really I'll predict right now that I really believe that Lisa's going to flip that seat.
Right.
But I'm also aligned already with someone who's very interested in running for family court judge in 2027.
Okay.
So I'll be running that campaign.
So, which is great. They're lucky people to have you helping them out.
Well, the price is right. I don't charge anybody.
Yeah, why not?
I can't. I've had this conversation with so many people. I wish it and I could be major donors, but we can't. But this is something that I can do. So I'll contribute my time to these Democrat races, and particularly to the candidates, that I support and that have a great appeal to me,
right,
that I believe in.
But people do pay for the work that you do, and they pay a pretty penny for that as well.
Yeah.
Is there any thought inside you that maybe someday you would do that professionally?
No, I know. I'm going to be 70, so I don't know how long I can do this.
Right.
But as long as I can do it, I will support the Debbie Hecks, the Cara Garys, the Gabby Marsiglianos. I know I'm leaving people out, candidates that that I really believe in, and I can. Someone said to me the other day, "Well, when are you going to run for an office again?" And I said, I just don't see myself doing that, because I'd rather be supporting new faces, new candidates, women candidates, and in doing so, I'm actually having an impact on what government looks like.
Yeah.
So I don't, I'm not going to change anything.
It must be very gratifying to feel that you're having an impact.
Oh yeah, no, it's the best. In the Cara Gary campaign, which I never thought that Cara went from an underdog to she's got a shot here to winning by 9,000 votes in Dutchess County. First-time candidate, and had 42,500 votes. The top vote getter in an off-year election. Unbelievable. But good timing. There was pent up, which I believe is going to happen again in 2026 this year. That there is just a pent up desire for to get Democrats out, and you saw that in 2025.
To get Democrats out.
Yeah, that's the big, yeah. By the way, you mentioned that you and Gina were canvassing, and you noticed, elderly folks, that includes me, and mostly women. So Debbie, all the candidates get overnight reports from the Board of Elections. You don't know how anyone has voted, but you know who is voting. And so
once early voting starts.
Yes, yeah. So by day 3 or day 4 of early voting, you see a pattern. What is that pattern? It was about in Rhinebeck. It was a pattern throughout the county, but in Rhinebeck it was particularly pronounced. I want to say that 65% of the people voting in early voting were women, and the majority of them, as in 68% of the women that were voting, were over the age of 62. So that, we're like, well, wow, we know that Debbie's been, and then the other thing is that we keep, and again, I don't want to give away any of my secrets, but we knew the doorsteps that Debbie Hecht was on. And that's when we started to think, well, we just didn't want to say it out loud, that this could be a landslide.
Right. Because you saw those same doorsteps who were so receptive to Deb and her message showing up for early voting.
Yes.
And you just sort of projected from all that information that, I remember hearing that from you all and thinking, whatever, that's not very scientific. But it turns out that you were right about that.
Yeah, we were right. Yeah. But Debbie would say, stop talking about this. And I stopped talking about it. She said, we're the underdog.
Yeah.
Debbie, it was Debbie's campaign. Yeah, she's a good leader.
I'll tell you.
There were things that we disagreed on, and I said, when I first started working with her, I said, that's this to all candidates. You're the boss, so I may disagree with you, but I'm going to have you back, even if I prove to be right.
What were some of the things you disagreed about?
Well, I did say to Debbie that maybe we need to be more aggressive on social media. We're getting beat up. You're looking at these comments, and I said, by the way, I'm just putting. My job is to put these options out there to you.
Right.
And she said, well, number one, I'm not spending time looking at these comments or these articles, and she really wasn't. She would call me up and sometimes say, well, was it a good article? Or I said, yeah, it was a good article on the couch. So she really, and I think that was really prudent and smart and disciplined on Deb's part. But as far as, did you want to punch back? She said, absolutely not. Now, it wasn't that, wasn't quite that subtle, but she knew what I was saying was, do we want to be reacting? Do we want to be responding to some of these things? That sometimes you have to if there's misinformation that's flowing. So we don't want anything that's misleading that could influence voters. But what I'm saying is that Debbie wanted to take the high road. Debbie did take the high road, and she made sure that everyone on her campaign team adhered to that, myself included.
Right. And then there were followers who didn't really take the high road.
It's impossible to control, people that you may not even know who are making, comments. And that's why, honestly, you win this. Debbie said this, and it's so true. You win the race on doorsteps, not on Facebook.
Right. But when you saw followers like not taking the high road and making like snarky or nasty comments, that must have, how did you feel about that?
Well, I just didn't spend too much time thinking about it, Norman.
One
of the reasons why
sweet.
is because you don't want to give certain things oxygen.
Right.
In a race. And things that are counterproductive just aren't worth, because there's always another doorstep that you could be on.
Right. And social media seems sort of self-oxygenating in that way.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
And so was the Daily Catch, which sort of, threw fuel on lots of little fires that were out there, just with what I thought was pretty objective reporting.
Yeah.
How important do you think they were to this campaign?
Well, what I can say, and I think I shared this with the Catch, and I think I'm right about this. So turnout for the primary across Dutchess County on average was about 19%. So that there were that is to say, about 80% of the Democrats stayed home. So that sounds bad, but actually for
Yeah.
primary, that's not bad. So in Rhinebeck, it wasn't 20%. It wasn't 25 or 30. 42% of Democrats came out, twice the number throughout the rest of Dutchess County. Why? Well, it was an exciting race, right? We had, candidates that had very different viewpoints and opinions. And I would say that the catch did a lot to build awareness of this race.
Yeah.
And that awareness, I believe, drove really unprecedented participation in a town primary in June.
Right. It also drove a lot of traffic to their website and made them a few bucks. Must have been a great few months for them in terms of ad sales and stuff.
I wouldn't know, but I would expect that would be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. I felt that they were a big force. And Deb's opponents, people, I saw a lot of bad-mouthing of the catch, saying, oh, they were so partisan. And I kept reading, looking for the partisan stuff. I couldn't find it. But some people
I
were
thought the catch's coverage was very even,
Yeah.
very fair, balanced. I have absolutely no complaints, and nor did Debbie.
Yeah. And what other media around here did approached you to write about the race when it was
Nobody.
happening? Nobody.
Nobody, no.
That's it.
I was having this conversation with Claire from the catch, and I said, well, I can speak to other parts of Dutchess County because I've been in every one of them, canvassing at some point for somebody. And Lisa Cole's race went into Putnam County and into Orange County as well. And I said, I don't know of any media coverage that's like the Daily Catch in any of these other towns, municipalities, cities. None of them.
How so?
I just don't know of.
Just diving that deep into local details?
Well, for example, in Lisa's race, we would be looking for. We put together a list of media. Poughkeepsie Journal, Mid Hudson News. I maybe I'm not as familiar with them as others are because I'm in Rhinebeck with you guys, but I just don't know anyone that's doing coverage. And of course, I'd be poking around like on Lisa's race. When I was looking for information about the primary, I couldn't find stories like what we had here from the Daily Catch. I found one article in the Mid Hudson News.
My goodness. Yeah, I thought the catch was just on it. I thought they really did a great job covering it all. So I wanted to ask this. You said that you deal mostly with women candidates.
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
Gosh, well, the first person that reached out to me was Eleanor Popko. A few years ago, she wanted to challenge John Penny in a village primary. Eleanor and I were not strangers to each other. We've known each other for years, campaigned together, for Delgado and Pat Ryan. And Eleanor said, and I want you to run the campaign. And I said, okay. And I did. And shortly thereafter, and Eleanor prevailed. And it's obviously, a terrific trustee. We're lucky to have her. But so she was motivated. She just felt that, that she wanted to challenge someone who had been appointed for this, position. After Trump's reelection in 2024, a young woman, Gabby Marsigliano, she approached me and she said, I just have to do something. I'm going to run for the school board. And I know I have to get signatures. I don't know how to do this. I said, no, I'll help you. It turned out to be a competitive race, as you recall. 9 people were vying for 4 seats, and Gabby prevailed. Gabby was one of the winners. And then Jen Neufeld. Well, I'm sorry. Then Cara Gary and I crossed paths at Pride Day, and I offered to knock on doors with her. I said, when you come into Rhinebeck, Red Hook, Tivoli, I know this area pretty well. And not just me, but there's this, we have the Rhinebeck Democratic Club, there's the Rhinebeck Democratic Committee, we can, corral people. And she said, oh, that sounds great. Well, the door knocking with Kara and Rhinebeck led to running her campaign. So, Norm, I guess, again, I'm giving these long answers.
It's so good.
You know what? I think the phenomenon isn't that John Rossi is finding women candidates, is that women candidates are finding someone who knows, how to run a ground game in a campaign, who's had some success.
Which would be presumably equally helpful for a male candidate.
Yeah. Well, the only one that I worked with was Troy Haley, who ran, for a seat in Red Hook in a primary against Chris Munn. Troy, I've said to him, it's a shame that we didn't meet maybe a few weeks earlier, or there were 2 more weeks, because we were building the ground game that I think if we had 2 more weeks, could have gotten him the 85 votes that he needed. So that's the. And by the way, I'm glad you remind me of that. He came into the race for all the same reasons as these other candidates, all who happen to be women, because they were motivated to do so by some external force. Norm, I guess, like me, and my high school story on Long Island, running for the school board.
Right.
I'm delighted that these women candidates are showing up. We need more.
Right.
Women,
You just brought up your high school, which made me remember this thing I read. You met your wife at a graduation party.
Yes. Yeah.
Were you all in the same class?
No. So May's a year younger,
Uh-huh.
which she likes to remind me of.
Yeah, she looks it.
And it was my graduation, and where everyone is out, at parties in backyards. It's graduation day, high school.
Kegs.
1975. Kegs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they keg parties?
A few.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean
Because
parties.
the drinking age was 17 at that point in time.
Well, I was 18.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
And I don't mean a few parties. I mean a few kegs were at all the parties.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's where May and I met in a backyard party. And
did somebody introduce you, or did you sidle up to her? And
Yeah. No. Someone said, this. I forget who introduced us. But I was driving at the time. I had a 1971 Ford Maverick. I wasn't drunk, so I did offer her, I really wasn't drinking. And I said, I'll give you a ride home, because she had a bicycle, and I gave May a ride home. And, it was, rest is history.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you walk her to the door and stuff? Help her get the bicycle off at the trunk
No,
of your
we left
car?
the bicycle. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
There's no place to. It's a Ford Maverick. Here.
And I'm trying to get an idea of your moves. And walk to the front door. Did you go in for a kiss, and that was it?
I don't even think it went that far. I said, I think we exchanged phone numbers. And
Yeah. And did you know her in school prior to this?
No.
How big a school was it?
Oh well, the district in Long Island. It's a school. It's a school district that incorporates multiple towns, communities. So the population of the school district was, I don't know, maybe 10,000. Oh yeah. Long Island school districts are big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Now that's multiple schools. Multiple high schools,
I
multiple
see.
elements.
Were you all in the same building?
Oh no.
I see.
No, they had consolidated districts.
Yeah.
But when I say consolidated district, it's 2 zip codes. It's
Yeah. That's a lot.
Oh yeah. The Long Island school districts are really huge.
So you asked her for her phone number, I'm guessing.
Yes.
No,
this is 50 years ago.
And you called her
51 years.
and you called her up right away and you asked her out on a date.
I don't think right away.
Oh, you're
You're
playing
making
it
me
cool?
sound bad. Now you did say there were some topics I could ve. No.
Yeah. You don't have to answer any of these questions.
I don't think I was a good boyfriend. But we did start to date that summer, and then we'd break up, and then we would date, and then we would break up, and then we got married.
Well, why couldn't you stay broken up? Why couldn't you stay broken up? This is the opportunity for you to go on and on about how fabulous May is. She said she was going to be listening.
Yes, she is listening. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and she is fabulous. Yes, she is. So, I think that she's and I, whether we knew it as 18 and 17-year-olds or not, that we were soulmates.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
That's just hats off to you.
Yeah.
So you went off to college.
Well, I went to St. John's, which was a commuter school. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's
Amazing
right
nurse.
there. Okay.
And still works, part time at the school district every once in a while when they need her. And then we married in 1981, and we lived in Richmond Hill, Queens for a little while, which was great. By the way, that's what inspired this cocktail, Norm.
Oh yeah. Hey, thanks for bringing in this fabulous cocktail.
So
vodka tonic.
It's a vodka tonic with a slice of lime.
I finished mine.
Yes, you did. Yeah,
Thank you.
because I've been gabbing. But so my aunt and uncle, the Rossis. Well, I'm 50% Italian, 50% Irish. My mother's
Great
first generation
American
Irish.
combination.
My dad is first, generation Italian. And the Currans, which is my mother's maiden name, they settled in Rockaway. And her father did what someone does when they get off the boat from Ireland, is they open a saloon.
Right.
And so he was a saloon keeper. That's there wasn't a bar, it was a saloon.
Yeah.
And everyone knew Timothy Curran, and that's where my mom's family continues. Some cousins, descendants continue to live. And it was my mom's brother, Jimmy Curran, who was a police officer and the unofficial mayor of Rockaway, and his wife Mary, who introduced May and I to this, I think, the choice summer cocktail.
Yeah.
Vodka tonic.
Vodka tonic.
Right there on the beach in Rockaway.
With a lime.
They brought a bottle of vodka. They brought tonic. They brought limes.
And did you grow up going to those beaches?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Were you ever a surfer?
No. But the Long Island beaches on the South Shore are beautiful. I think much better than the ones on the North Shore, which tend to be kind of a lot of cliffs and rocks. But the South Shore of Long Island, Jones Beach, Lido Beach, Point Lookout, the Rockaways, white, pristine, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, they're gorgeous. We used to go out to Robert Moses Beach.
Oh God, yeah.
I don't know how. Somebody said, "Oh, this is where we're going."
No,
Okay.
Robert Moses just
Take the subway out there and go to the beach. Which is amazing. It's so easy to forget that New York City is a port town.
Yes.
That it's on the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. But that's the one thing that we do miss is the beaches. But we discovered York Beach up in Maine, which is on the Atlantic and very reminiscent of the Long Island beaches. Lots of white stretches of a lot of white fine sand. But other than the beaches, there's very little that we miss about Long Island.
Yeah, well, you landed in a great place.
We sure did.
And
yeah.
guess what? We got 30 seconds left. I wanted to ask this question. After this race, which was a little bit contentious, what is your hope for Rhinebeck?
Oh, that we turn the page and that we put this in the rearview mirror and look forward to the leadership that Debbie and the board will, I think, be bringing. In fact, I'm confident she'll be bringing.
There you go. Love that. I love your confidence. I love your strategic thinking. And I love that you came in and brought a fabulous drink for us to enjoy.
I love that you invited me. Thank you.
John Rossi, thanks for being a wonderful guest. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a great Friday and a fabulous weekend. Thanks to producer extraordinaire Jen Hammoud for pushing all the right buttons to send this out in the airwaves or whatever they are. Thanks again, John.
Oh, no, thank you.
Take care.
John.